are not matter.
Are they?
Damn good. Oh, I'm sorry, should I say damn? I apologize. Madame question. Madame is okay. Can't say damn though. Sure. Sorry. No, I mean, that's, you know, it seems really weird to me. How come somebody decided, okay, so this doesn't matter, it stops here? But all matter is made up of all these particles that are energy in an arrangement. So these are all energy, not physical objects, but they're energy, and energy in an arrangement. And these are what makes up everything, including your body. Yes? So for those of you that have a body, right? It's made up of atoms and molecules, atoms, all the different subatomic particles, and all the quantum particles, all somehow making all of this happen. Well, if
Is the soul made up of this?
so, that's where we're going, right? Well, we're trying to figure out what is your soul. According to Stuart Hameroff, who, if you get a chance, have a look at some of his YouTube videos where he explains this. Stuart Hameroff is an anesthesiologist from Santa Fe. He's put thousands of people under for operations and then brought them back. And the neat thing about bringing them back is he gets paid for that. He points out, you know, people don't pay you to put them under, they pay you to bring them back out.
True.
Right? But so sitting there monitoring people that he's put unconscious and bringing them back, what he has learned is that people are experiencing stuff while they're unconscious. In fact, a typical experience is someone feels like they're above the operation watching it from above. And they could describe things that happened while he knows they were unconscious. And it's like, how does this happen, right? So his theory is that our soul, or our consciousness, is like a cloud of quantum particles around us, which, by the way, if you look at the Middle Ages and you see the halos that the artists would paint around people, they're talking about an aura, which is like a heat, which if you have synesthesia, people that have synesthesia, or at least some people that do, can actually see an aura around a person. My wife, very disconcerting, we were at a concert, she looked at one of the violinists, came out and said, ooh, his aura is gray. That means he's going to die soon. Next concert, he was dead. It's just true. You know, my own experience, my wife saw, she could see things like that. And ooh, that's scary, right? In any case, the idea is that there's like a cloud around us. By the way, the idea of the soul was slightly larger than the body, because you can sense things around you, and they didn't know how we do that, right? Notice other thing. Have you ever felt like your mother was going to call you, and then just then she did? Yes?
Sure.
I mean, how did you know she was going to call? Was that
ESP, right?
Well, what is ESP? You know, how do we have that?
Extrasensory.
Well, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
but
Where does it come
but
from?
how does that work,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm looking at, of course, is your soul. What is your soul actually? A lot of our contemporaries will argue that it's just the physical body, the physical brain. You know, you have a brain that's basically wetware, because it's like a computer. You know, you think of it, your brain is, it's not hardware, it's wetware because it's wet. You know, and you run, you know, programs on it. So a lot of folks, I should mention Steven Pinker is one. Daniel Dennett was another. These are both on my list of philosophers if you're interested in them. that would argue that basically it's just the physical brain and that's all. But here's a anesthesiologist that knows there's more to it than that. You know? And so what is the soul? And then the other question is, because when we look at what Socrates is going to argue in the Phaedo, is when he's dying, and he dies, he thinks there's a 50-50 chance that his soul will continue on. And there's some Greek stories about where your soul goes. You know, it's kind of, you know, there's like a line of people, you know, that just died, and you know, some go to the left, some go to the right. He even hypothesizes that he's going to be able to sit with Homer and other great Greeks and discuss philosophy. So he's looking forward to death, in a sense. And even at the end of the dialogue where he wants a sacrifice. Let's see if I can just go. So, it looks like it got cut off. But at the very end, he famously says to one of them, make sure you sacrifice a cock, a rooster, to Scopius, to thank him for my cure. Okay, what does he mean? Well, you know, is he being cured of this corruption of the body? You know. So thank you, you know, for curing me, because now I don't have to put up with this 79-year-old body anymore, whatever, right? For 70-year-old, I forget how old he was, but Aristotle was 68, Plato was in his 80s, Socrates was somewhere in the middle. But by the way, it's easy to remember. Socrates taught Plato, and Plato taught Aristotle, and you get spa. Right, spa. You remember that. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. So, the soul continues on, hopefully. Of course, he can't prove it. But, so there you go. And I should go and start talking a little bit about the Republic. The res publica, which in Greek is politeia. So instead of a particular character that's named as the head of the dialogue, you actually got 10 books. It's one of the longest. In fact, that's what they're going to describe here in this introduction. What do we get? We get a bunch of individuals coming together to have a nice dinner conversation kind of thing. And the topic that comes up is justice. So the virtue that's of concern in the Republic is justice. And you're going to end up with individuals offering what justice is. And the first one is Thrasymachus, who argues that it's the interest of the stronger. We could apply that today. You know, if we think about our bro-oligarchs, you heard that, the bro-oligarchs, the ones sitting, Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg, and others, right? Peter Thiel, there's kind of a bro-oligarchy, basically. What kind of government are we going to have, But the interest of the stronger, which I learned, in class we had IS. We would chant IS, which is interest of the stronger, right? And so it's not exactly might makes right. In a way, it is, because what might makes right is the mighty's belief in what ought to be justice, right? So it's not arguing that the strong, like Achilles, get their way, right? But instead you have the strong determining what the conditions are for justice. easy example would be after World War II, we put the Nazis on trial, the Nuremberg trials, and we used our ethics to condemn them for doing things like killing civilians. Their ethic was really quite different. We'll talk about it as a Stoic ethic, where the authority of the state was the highest value, right? And so when you got orders to kill 200 people because somebody had ambushed the SS on the road, and 20 of them were killed, then the order was line up 200 people and kill them, civilians, etc. Right? After the war, you put those people on trial for killing civilians, and they said, "Well, I was ordered to do it. It's not my fault." Of course, the argument that the stronger had was that no, under those circumstances, a military person is supposed to refuse to do those orders. Which, by the way, is really different. You can imagine being like Lieutenant Calley in Vietnam, right? He was found guilty of killing villages of civilians, but it's pretty clear he was ordered to do this. And yet he was the fall guy. He was the one sent to jail, and not the general's lieutenant, right? A lieutenant. In any case, interest of the stronger. Well, in the discussion, they end up coming up with the ring of Gyges. This is a magic ring, which if you put it on, you're invisible. Wow, where have we heard about these rings before, right? How many of those rings are out there? Lord of the Rings. One. You can tell though, because when you throw it in the fire, you pull it out. It's quite cool, and it has elvish writing. It's very evil. Don't pronounce it in the house. Sorry. I'm addicted to all this crap. Why? I didn't really mean to call it crap. There's a Tolkien Club, by the way, that meets every third Friday at the Writer's Block. If you're interested. Pardon?
What is it?
There's a Tolkien Club.
Tolkien Club?
It's official. We're part of the Oxford thing. And every third Friday at 6 to 8 o'clock at the Writer's Block downtown on Spenard Road, we meet and just have fun talking about fantasy. That's just fun. But in any case, the ring of Gyges, in this story, the individual who has this ring, finds this ring, he discovers that he's invisible, so he can get away with whatever, and so he can get away with murder, basically, and so he takes over being king of the island, and discovers that actually the government turns out to be an absolute mess. This enables him to do whatever he wants, but actually for the whole society turns out to be terrible. Things just don't work out. So they all agree that interest of the stronger is not good. So they move on. They go to another, next definition. And one offers, tell the truth and pay your debts. TTPD, right? So you get IS, TTPD, if you want to remember the kind of a chant thing. My professor gave us a list of all the chants, you can have. I still have it, by the way. However, TTPD, tell the truth, pay your debt. This is where the counterexample is the white lie. If you're a friend and you go out drinking, and the friend gives you his truck keys, says, "Here, hold on to these, and don't give them back to me if I'm drunk." Well, and of course, what happens? He gets drunk, right? And then he comes in and give him keys. And this guy is going to drive drunk. I don't want him to die. I don't want him to hit anybody else. So you lie and tell him, "Oh, I gave them to your wife." Which really might not be good, because now he's going to be mad at his wife. But you get the idea. Is that okay to lie like that? And you've heard, what commandment was it? Thou shalt not lie. Actually, it's thou shalt not bear false
False witness.
witness, which strikes me as being in a court situation. The judge really has to understand what happened. So if you lie to the judge, the decision's not going to be very just, right? But we call this a white lie. It's time for me to quit, right? I have to pick up. Yes, yes. Other people have a class too. It's time. I think maybe 2 more minutes. Do I have another minute? She has a